I never thought a simple camping trip in Texas would turn into the worst experience of my life. And if you're listening to this, all I want is to warn you, never camp in the desert, no matter how calm the night looks. There were 4 of us. I was the one who suggested it, spending a night under the stars in the middle of nowhere. I had read that Texas nights in the desert were some of the clearest in the world, that you could see constellations invisible in the city. And it was true. When we arrived, the sky stretched out like an endless black sea, littered with stars so bright they seemed to hover just above our heads. The air smelled of dry earth, mixed with the hot dust that rose with every step. There was nothing around us, only hardened sand, low hills, and a silence so absolute it made my ears ring. We lit a small fire, opened a few beers, and at first everything was laughter, jokes, and stories. None of us suspected what was waiting for us. The first sign was almost unnoticeable. One of my friends, Laura, pointed toward the horizon. "Do you see that?" she asked, squinting her eyes. A bluish light floated in the distance, moving slowly. At first, I thought it was a car far away, but there were no roads anywhere near. The light wasn't steady. It flickered, vanished, then reappeared closer. We all stared in silence. It was hypnotic, like a beacon in the middle of nowhere. "Must be a drone," Daniel muttered, though his voice was more nervous than convincing. Then the light went out. We laughed it off, uneasy but pretending it was nothing. Still, the mood had shifted. I didn't say it out loud, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Around midnight, the wind changed. It carried with it a strange scent, like wet metal. The fire hissed and cracked, and for a moment, I swear I heard a low murmur, like whispers, coming from deep beneath the ground. That's when we saw the second light, this time much closer. It floated only a few yards from our tents, a pale, bluish glow that lit the sand in a cold halo. I shot to my feet, heart hammering in my throat. "Do you see that?" I asked, but my voice trembled. Laura was frozen, Daniel cursed under his breath, and Carlos, the skeptic of the group, grabbed his flashlight like it was some kind of weapon and stepped toward the glow. "Relax, it's just, I don't know, swamp gas or something," he said, even though there was no swamp for miles. His voice cracked on the last word. The rest of us stayed back, huddled close to the fire as he moved closer to the floating orb. From where I stood, I could see his shadow stretching unnaturally long across the sand, bending and twisting like it was being pulled by something else. "Carlos, don't." I tried to stop him, but it was too late. The light flickered, and in a blink, it wasn't a sphere anymore. It elongated, shifting into a tall humanoid shape, nothing solid, just a figure made of light, blurry but distinctly human. Carlos froze. He didn't run. He didn't even scream. He just stood there, his flashlight beam cutting through the figure, as if the light from his hand had been swallowed whole. That's when I heard it, a whisper, soft and broken, coming not from the figure, but from beneath my feet. I looked down at the cracked desert floor, and I swear I saw the sand pulse, like something beneath was breathing. Laura grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "It's not real," she whispered, though she sounded like she was trying to convince herself. Daniel started praying under his breath, his voice trembling as the figure tilted its head toward us. Then the ground shuddered, subtle, but enough to scatter the sand around the fire. Carlos finally moved. He turned back toward us, his face pale, his mouth open. He started, but before he could finish, the figure vanished, just like that. Gone. Only, Carlos didn't move. He just stood there, rigid, eyes wide as if he was staring at something we couldn't see. When I called his name, he didn't answer. When Daniel ran to grab him, Carlos collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. We dragged him back to the fire, shaking him, yelling, but his eyes remained open, glassy, staring at the sky. His chest rose and fell. He was breathing, but it was shallow, erratic, like something was draining the life from him. And then we heard it. Not whispers this time. A deep, grinding sound, like stone tearing against stone, rising from beneath the earth. The crack near our tents widened, a jagged line in the sand splitting open as if the desert itself was trying to swallow us. Blue light poured from it. Not the comforting glow of the stars above, but a sickly, unnatural radiance that made our skin crawl. Laura screamed. Daniel dropped to his knees, dragging Carlos's limp body toward the tent. And me? I couldn't move. I couldn't take my eyes off that widening fissure, because inside, just for an instant, I saw something move. Not light, not shadow, something alive, something vast. And it was coming up. The fissure split wider with a sound that tore through the desert night. It wasn't just the ground breaking. It was like the earth itself was screaming. Blue light bled out in pulses, casting our shadows huge and distorted against the tents. Laura was crying, clutching Carlos, who lay motionless, except for shallow breaths. Daniel shouted that we had to leave, but where could we go? The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, and whatever was beneath us was already here. I forced myself to move, stumbling toward the tents. My legs felt heavy, as if the ground itself was pulling at them. The whispers had returned, louder now, overlapping voices that crawled into my ears and sank into my head. They didn't sound human anymore, just echoes of pain, overlapping and incoherent. Then, the light surged, and something began to rise from the crack. At first, it looked like a swarm of shapes, twisting together. Arms, faces, hollow eyes made of pure glow, writhing as one. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't even many creatures. It was a collection, a mass. A prison of souls, bound in light, clawing upward, desperate for release. Laura screamed again. Daniel grabbed her by the arm and pulled, dragging her toward the dark hills in the distance. I followed, carrying Carlos's dead weight over my shoulder. His skin was ice cold, his breath shallow. Each step felt like wading through tar. Behind us, the crack widened with a thunderous snap. The swarm thing pulled itself higher, its countless faces stretching toward the sky, their mouths opening in silent screams. The orbs we'd seen earlier shot out from it like sparks, scattering across the desert. Some darted around us, circling close, too close. One brushed against my arm. The cold was unbearable, searing straight into my bones. For a moment I felt the memory of someone else's death flood into me. A man drowning, a woman's last scream, a child lost in darkness. All of it slammed into my mind in a second, and I nearly collapsed. Daniel shouted at me to keep running, but the ground shook again, and Laura fell, dragged down by a sudden sinkhole that opened beneath her. She screamed my name back, her hand outstretched. Then she was gone. Just gone. The sand closed over her like water. Daniel stopped, tried to dig, but the ground sealed itself, leaving no trace. Only silence. We couldn't save her. We both knew it. We kept running until the firelight of the camp was just a distant glow. Carlos was dead weight, heavier with every step. Then, without warning, he convulsed violently on my back. I dropped him. His eyes snapped open, glowing with that same blue light. He smiled at me. Not Carlos's smile, something else wearing his face. Daniel didn't wait. He turned and bolted into the night, vanishing between the hills. I was left there, frozen, staring down at my friend's body as the blue light spread across his skin like veins of fire. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move, because when he spoke, it wasn't with his voice. It was with all of them. We've been waiting.
Subscribe to more story bars.